In 2009 and previously, Ontario, the knife company, had a great thing going with their spec-plus line of high-value blades. I reviewed several of them here in the Nutnfancy project, recommending them highly to my TMPers. Here's a good representation. This is a Quartermaster SP17 from the original Ontario spec-plus lineup. I never did a tabletop on this one. You saw it in several videos. I spoke to it very highly. I think in High Skies, the hike, I talked about it and said this is a great day hike option. And the reason is it's relatively lightweight at 13 ounces total carry weight. Very affordable, around $47. Great blade. Not full flat ground, but other than that, I found that it performed quite admirably in roll. And the roll, of course, is kind of a backup survival knife. When I'm not expecting to do a lot of woodwork, a lot of shelter work, and weight, let me just say SAWC is a huge consideration. This is the kind of blade I'm looking for. I get stoked too when I find a high value factory produced blade like this. I mean, we could go to custom, semi-customs if, price is no object, and, spend $100, $200, $300 on a carbon steel blade. No doubt very tough, very capable in roll. I'm less excited about that though because of the money I'm spending to get there. I'm sure you are too. The blades that stoke me are these ones, these high value blades, Ontario's, the K-bars. I love them. I don't know why, I just do. We're getting a lot of blade for our money. Anyways, I was saying I was bummed that they're discontinuing the spec-plus line. I spoke to him in the video, and I was saying, hey man, don't do that. This is a great line. Keep it going. Well, I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think it was already in the works. The good news is the spec-plus has been superseded by a completely new lineup. It's a spec-plus Gen 2 lineup, not this one. Let me move Mr. Quartermaster to the side. Again, we may make reference to it in this brand new knife review. Here we go. This is a good representation from for the line right in here. Can't speak. This is the Ontario spec-plus Gen 2 SP46. Same roll as that Quartermaster. Okay? And look at that, dudes. Full flat ground. Awesome. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. Same roll, jumping right in the talking points. Philosophy of use. This is a great day hiking blade. And what we've been using it for here in the Nutnfancy project, is a great backpacking blade. Sorry about the gloves. I've still got cuts, bruises, scrapes from the glacier. Distracting. Got tired of the scabs. You guys looking at them. So here you go. Glove review. Great blade. Backpacking weight is reasonable. 14.6 ounces total carry weight with the sheath. Okay, now some guys will say, well, I want more blade. I say, great, carry more blade. Depending if I really know that I have to use my blade for wilderness shelter, I may do so as well. But in a situation like you saw in summer snow, maybe glacier call. By the way, this knife came with me in glacier call. This is a size knife that I'm carrying, same as a Quartermaster. And there's not a lot of blades in this category at relatively affordable prices that will fill the bill like this SP46 will be. So I'm going to say it's a survival knife. First and foremost, when you're, and some guys will say, well, that's plenty of a blade for me. You know me, Nutnfancy, I like the larger size survival knives to minimize work and effort and calorie expenditure when I'm out in the wild. And I know that I have to use them in wilderness fashion. In other words, I don't have a tent. I know that I have to use a blade. This is probably too little of a blade. But remember, I'm driving to POU here, philosophy of use. For backpacking, when I have a tent, I know I'm going to be doing some firework, but I don't really need that big of a blade. Perfect. Could you use it as a tactical blade? I guess. I think its true calling, though, is as a survival wilderness blade. A tactical blade, would it function? And when I mean tactical, I'm talking about a fighting blade that you could defend your life with. Pretty much any knife could function like that, don't you think? SP46, no different. We'll talk maybe a little bit about that in blade shape. That's the POU as I see it. What does it have any, I don't know, second type of cool for guys? Maybe. I think it's mostly utilitarian though. It's very basic in its construction and its features. That keeps the price low and affordable, and it's utilitarian. I have no problems with that at all. Quality. All right, you guys are going to dig this. When I found the spec-plus, and this is a while back, I knew they were doing the spec-plus Gen 2, and I was stoked. It's taken me a while to fit a review in, and more importantly, get some testing in, real-world testing. Got a good drink, excuse me. up in the high altitude environments where I go. This blade has passed with flying colors if you need to know right now. Anyways, I guess the dude that designed this blade is named Dan Maragni. I hope I'm saying your name right, Dan. I apologize if I'm not. I wanted to find out more about Dan, so I Googled him. I was like, that's interesting, because it just fascinated me that not only did they get rid of, or they did not drop the spec-plus line, they improved it. I kind of wanted to know about the guy that was driving it, because I dig that. I like it when a reputable knife manufacturer hooks in with a knife maker and something like this results. High value, well-designed blade. This is what I found. I went to Blade Forums. Hello, everybody at Blade Forums. Nutnfancy saying hello. What's up? And there's a user there called, and I'm going to give him full credit, dude, because he's the one that did this. Tuhan Bill. That's his YouTube name. There's his annotation for his channel. Go say hello to him. He does subscribe to the Nutnfancy project. Thank you very much. And he talked to Bill. And I uncovered a thread about the manufacturer, which I found absolutely fascinating. And it drives directly to this talking point, quality. Here come the words directly from Mr. Maragni. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. This is what he said about the design of the spec-plus Gen 2 knives. And I think it's fascinating. I can't say it any better than he does. He goes, the material, American-made 5160 steel, not some unknown import of indifferent quality supplied by a large steel retailer. This stuff is made by WCI in the U.S. I had micros done on it so I could examine the material, and it is very nice. I like 5160 because it's a bit tougher than the higher carbon steel such as 1095. I think 1095 is a great steel. I've had a great experience. We'll talk about that here in a second. And is much more compatible to industrial style heat treatment. What's that? I'll tell you in a second. I also found the cutting ability comparable to higher carbon steels in my physical testing. Water jet cutting. The blade blanks were cut out of the plate using a water jet cutter rather than laser cutter. And he talks about how with laser cutting, it can actually heat affect the steel and affect the tempering, maybe induce some cracking when the blanks are being cut. Stress relief. This is fascinating. I introduced a vacuum stress relief operation after cutting to eliminate any residual stress that might cause straightening or other problems due mainly to coil memory. Huh, that's cool. Surface grind. Had about 0.030 per side ground off to eliminate any possibility of problems from the hot rolled surface. I once had blades made of 5160 from a large steel retailer crack due to cracks in the surface of the material from hot rolling process. If you're getting the vibe that this guy put a lot of attention to detail in the design of these Gen 2 knives from Ontario, you would be correct. I dig it. That's why I'm reading him verbatim, because I'm so impressed with the amount of work and his very specific attention to detail in getting these Gen 2 knives right. This is my favorite part. You ready? I'm going to read about heat treatment. It's special. I even have it highlighted in yellow. I set the hardening temperature, soak times, quench, snap temper. That sounds cool, snap temper. And temper procedures based on my research and experimentation with this material. He's talking about the 5160 steel. I heat treated the blades in my shop, tested them, and then had metallurgical analysis done of each procedure to document them. I also added the snap temper step to the factory heat treatment. This is an operation I've seen done in other factory knives, but one that I have always used in my own knife making and is common in commercial heat treatment plants. What it does is, I'm trying to show you something while I'm reading. What it does is relieve some of the stresses of hardening before the clamp and temper operation, prevents any cracking of the blades while tempering. If you're not impressed by now, something's wrong with you, because me, Nutnfancy, I'm pretty impressed by all this. I also introduced heavy-duty tempering racks, which results in straighter blades and results in more consistent grinds. Wicked. Then he goes on talking about how he laser imprints the blades as opposed to, let's bring Mr. SP17 back, stamping them, which can introduce cracks and failures in the blade under hard use. Talks about how he taught the sharpeners at Ontario to do a 2-stage sharpening process with different abrasive belts according to his specification. And basically, he had full control over the Generation 2 knives, one of which you see here right in front of you. That's pretty high quality, and Ontario just gave him free reins. And, you know, he says in that response to Bill 18 years of factory knife experience. I saw some things that failed, and I was trying to eliminate them at all costs. Well done, my man. Well done. Mr. Dan, making the Generation 2 live on in better form. And I will have to say, after testing, I still love the my voice cracking. I still love the SP17. I think it's a great blade. I definitely prefer the full flat grind. You guys know that. I like the attention to detail. Everything we just read about, how he's laser engraving the blade as opposed to stamping them. This is a better knife. I will have to say it's a better blade. Proven in my own use up in summer snow. We thumped on it fairly hard. You know, I didn't really get cold testing done, but I'll say it pretty much rocks. There you go. How's that for a coverage of the quality talking point? Got a jam. I don't want this to be too long. The weight, I already said. 10-ounce blade, 14.6 with the sheath. That makes it carryable to me. You know, 15 ounces or less for a backpacking blade is what I'm looking for. I don't really want to go much less than that for a serious woodworking blade because it just doesn't have the heft to chop, strip limbs, maybe be tough enough to split wood. I shouldn't say that. There's some small ones like the Cold Steel SRK that do quite well in that. Excuse me, in that job. Balance is pretty awesome. Feel is excellent as well. Again, if you're going to use this as a tactical blade, I think you might have some better options. It's mostly a wilderness blade to me. Blade design, we covered that with the verbiage from Mr. Maragni. That was pretty awesome. 5160 steel. This is what I was going to say about it. 1095 steel is excellent. This one, the SP17 is 1095. Very durable, very tough. If you heat treat it properly, from my own experience, it pretty much rocks. It will rust out on you, just like this 5160 does. If you're not taking care of it. Let's go back to my review of the Ranger RD9, also by Ontario. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in my testing, part of which you saw in my High Skies series of videos, this steel rolled on me. Okay, the edge rolled on me. You won't see it now because I had it resharpened, took it over to Fitz and Shop, and there you go. I thought it had it oiled. There's a big old rust spot on it. You can pretty much expect that. I must have oiled it up and then put it back in sheath with some moisture. Not a huge deal, but yeah, that's what you can expect with these blades. 5160, 1095. Anyways, back there. But notice, by the way, how I backed that relief edge off. Nice. So that's a more gradual approach to the cutting edge. I still think it's relatively durable. Definitely sharper. So I will say 5160 steel in some cases has not impressed me so much. It's supposed to be a hardened spring steel with a higher carbon content, ranging from my research 0.56 to 0.64, chromium content 0.7 to 0.9. Okay, so but I have seen it roll. I didn't see it in the SP46. Granted, I haven't done days and weeks of testing on this knife. I got to tell you, I haven't. But from all indications, it looks like Dan's attention to detail in producing the 5160 steel from that U.S. manufacturer is paying off. It's going to be tough. It's heat treated properly from all indications. Again, these are just my data points. Awesome. I love the blade shape. Kind of a Dirk blade shape, distal tapered, and that tip is pretty strong. I wailed on that sucker. Didn't break, no problems associated. Again, cold weather testing is the best. That's when you're going to find out if your 5160 steel blade is going to rock and roll or suck. You know, and yeah, I've busted blades doing that. Cold Steel Recon. Excuse me. Great blade. I love the Cold Steel Recon. Awesome blade. Any knife blade can break on you. I'll just say that. How about, I was going to mention tactical use. Is that a good tactical blade? Well, I don't know. And again, I'm not Joe Knife Fighter, and I never want to be Joe Knife Fighter, ever. But common sense would say, yeah, look at the belly on that blade. That is a good sweep. It's going to have great slicing capability. The full flat grind is just outstanding. Great job again, Dan. I love it. It's nothing I don't like about the blade shape. You guys should know that because I pretty much wax prophetic on any leaf blade shape, in this case a Dirk blade shape, whether it's a folder, kind of like the Cold Steel, not Cold Steel, but Spyderco Barong. Barong. I love those leaf shape blades. They're just outstanding. Let's get on. Handle. Craton. This is a cost saver right here, okay? And they have smaller versions in the Gen 2 spec-plus Gen 2 lineup that have aluminum caps on them. That adds cost. adds more material. And some guys say, why is that smaller knife more expensive than the larger knife? That's why. This is a simple craton grip that's pushed on. It's retained by the flared out, you know, rivet right there. Not really rivet, but lanyard retention thingy. That's what I'll call it. The guard is also craton. That's a cost-saving measure. In the role of utility blade, do you need anything more? Okay, and this is why I kind of say, you know, maybe in the role of tactical knife, not so much. I mean, if someone's come down your blade and all you have is craton, I don't know, to protect you with that. I always lose interest when I hear guys saying that. I mean, Fitzen included. Hey, yeah, I want to block this with a blade. I'm like, dude, the chances of you being able to do that skillfully are just so slim. Chances are you're going to miss. The blade's going to come right down your fingers. Good night. Heaven forbid. Sheath. Here's the sheath overall, first off, let me say, is much better than the SP17 Quartermaster, which is representative of the the spec-plus original lineup. See the leather, and I don't dig the leather. It does have some nylon on it. Relatively heavy. This is much better. Molly capable. Look on the back. Nice. So you have this set up for belt use, and you can thread your belt through this portion as well. It features great stitching, no issues there. Has a lanyard on it. Actually replaced it with a hollowed out 550 cord in coyote brown or tan, whichever color that is, with the toggle. I prefer that. And also, contrary to the RD9 sheath, they got rid of the Velcro. Huh. Something I've been harping on for the last 2 years. Don't put Velcro on a sheath. Put a snap on it, just like, what do you know, SP46 features. So it's a decent sheath, actually, except for one thing. When you first get it, it retains a blade very loosely, like we see with a lot of other Ontario knives. The good news is it's easily rectified. Here you go, some Nutnfancy shop video. All you do is take that lanyard off, because that is actually a retaining mechanism for the anterior plastic insert, thermoplastic. Take that sucker out and get your heat gun. No, a hairdryer probably won't work. You need something hotter. Pull that thermoplastic insert out. Heat that sucker up nice and good, and just squeeze it together. Hold it together and cool it off. And now you have a thermoplastic insert that you can reinsert into your sheath. And at this point, I recommend you glue it. I use shoe goop. Velcro glue will work, and let it set overnight. And that way, the insert won't come out. The reason I say that is when it's loose from the factory, the lanyard is enough to retain it. But now that it's going to be snug on the blade, when you extract the blade, that whole plastic insert is going to want to come out if you don't glue it. You with me? And that's exactly what I'm showing you here. Now look at the retention that I have with that simple modification. Took me all of 10 minutes. Easily fixed, but I got to tell you, it's kind of a downside. Another downside, can you guys figure out? On the SP46 sheath, probably prevalent through some of the other knives in the lineup. The sheath's too long. Check it. There's the blade right there, and then you can see I have about another 1.5 inches that I'm not even using. That's extra weight, extra, you know, length I'm carrying around that I don't need. Minor quibble, but I would like to see it seized. It's hilarious. Sized accordingly. I heard rumors that Dan's redoing the sheaths on the Gen 2, so that's cool. Maybe we can see that. Competitive options. First off, let's talk price. What was this ballparking at? I think around $57 is this one. Around 60-ish, depending on where you go. Again, this is kind of a small group of knives. This weight class, I'm talking around 14 ounces or under, relatively short blades, and factory produced under $75. There's not a ton of knives. Maybe we could consider the K-Bar. Classic utility combat knife, 15.2 ounces, around $52. You saw this in my deer snare video. Great knife. I love it. Not full flat ground, of course, the K-Bars are not. They're kind of featuring the same grind that the SP17 has. In fact, identical. Very functional, but yeah, if I can take an FFG, totally will. How about, where'd it go? I don't even know. I was going to say the K-Bar KBD1. Previously reviewed in that Fancy project. Yeah, that's out there. Benchmade CSK2? Seems like I had some experience with this knife. Oh yeah. Broke on me up in the snow. Yeah. CSK2 for hard wilderness use. Not recommended. 1095 steel blade. It just has too thin of a edge, apparently. Totally chipped out on me in use. But it is in category. That's why I'm bringing it out. By the way, this is a replacement one Benchmade sent to me, and they have outstanding customer service, like all great knife companies do. Lighter. This is probably a more capable blade than this in terms of, I don't know, woodwork, shelter use. Again, some guys like the small blades. I like as big a blade as I can comfortably carry. Cold Steel SRK, it's attached to LBE somewhere. I'm not going to go get it. You guys seen it lots. It's a smaller knife than this. It's going to be lighter at 11.4 ounces, about the same price, $63 or so. But this, to me, with its full flat grind, it's decent width. And by the way, let me talk about that. Some knives say, well, you know, I like a really thick blade. Be careful, because that drives and will really negatively impact your philosophy of use. And what I'm talking about is if you go with a 1/4 inch thick slab of steel, like some manufacturers do, in this size knife, you've added probably about 8 ounces of steel. I'm probably being too generous, but my point is it changes the portability of the blade. I think the SP46 with its dirk-shaped blade, this thickness of steel is ideal. Does it split ideally? You know, a 1/4 inch slab of steel will split best, right? Wood, in my experience. I prefer it. Problem is, I don't want to carry it up there. Do you? I mean, that's a lot of weight, man. It's a lot of steel. Steel is heavy last time I checked, and it sucks to carry it. I shouldn't say lots, a few other competitive options, but this, in my opinion, in this category of knife, medium-sized survival knife, carbon steel variety, less expensive, I think it's going to probably rule the roost as of 2010. That's right. That's what I'm saying. Two kinds of cool. Second kind of cool, I think, is slim. There's really not too much special about it, but this knife is all about first type of cool, practicality, youthfulness, and roll, and I think it's going to be a dominating blade. I really do. The reason I say that is because here I just got back from 3 big backpacking trips, Glacier Call, Summer Snow. The other one's coming. I'm not going to tell you the name yet. Guess which knife I took with me out of all the knives that I have? That one right there. This SP17 could have come too, but I need to test this too. That's another reason. And I would feel totally comfortable going out again with it. The weight, 14.6 ounces, total carry weight, capability. It can split, it can chop, it can slice. It has good edge durability. I didn't see it chip out. Yes, it will rust, like all carbon steel blades will. I can take care of it. I carry, you know, my oil with me. I'll take care of it. Price, like I told you, around $60. Great job, Dan. I mean, seriously, I'm so glad to see that Ontario is still keeping the spec-plus line around. And actually, from all indications, it is much better. I mean, I read to you that stuff that Mr. Maragni is doing. Amazing. I mean, that's for a knife that's under $100, under $75. I think that's a great job. Again, I'm picky. I would still like to see it under $50, but that might be unrealistic in 2010 terms when prices have gone up on pretty much all materials to include steel, especially US-made steel, which this Gen 2 SP46 is featuring. I'm probably going to cover some others in the lineup as well. I dig the lineup. Gen 2, Ontario, Maragni, great job, and also thank you to Two Hone Bill. I hope I'm saying your screen name right. Two Hone Bill. For that great research that I piggybacked on for my review. Thanks so much. This is Nutnfancy, highly recommending the SP46, great mid-size, non-stainless survival blade. See ya.